Yes, in several parts of the areas that were controlled by the Ukrainian Nazi battalions, the Russian army is now distributing humanitarian assistance. This particular town was hit by these battalions and destroyed a factory, destroyed school, and there is a severe crisis going on here. And to talk about this, I have a guest. She's an American-Canadian journalist living in Russia, Eva Bartlett. Eva, what's the humanitarian situation in the newly liberated areas of the Donbass?
Well, I think as people will see behind us, people are lining up for the supplies, which are actually quite sufficient, it seems, and they're coming in batches to collect supplies. I would note that this is similar to what we saw in Syria once areas were liberated of terrorists that had occupied these areas and starved the civilians. Once the areas were liberated, humanitarian corridors, well, before they were liberated, humanitarian corridors were set up, civilians fled to secure areas, and then they were given humanitarian aid.
And is this issue really covered by the mainstream media in the West?
Absolutely not, and it might seem strange, but I've been taking photos of the actual aid packages, what goes into the boxes or the bags, because I know the predictable Western response will be, well, they're empty or something like that. But they contain a variety of proteins, vegetable in tins, chocolate even, water obviously, and it's not going to be reported on in Western media, or they will say this is just a stage, that these are just actors, or this is just happening in one region. But we've seen a few regions already, and we've only been here for a couple of days.
We have seen that also in the Ukraine proper, that troops were feeding the people, and that reminded me of the images that we all have seen of Soviet troops feeding the German population after 1945, which obviously did not happen when Germany was occupying the Soviet Union. So do you think that this is just for propaganda purposes because the media is here now, or is it a genuine effort to improve the situation?
Well, I mean, if you think about it logically, Russia would want the public to not only see them as liberators, but see them as people who are actually helping the situation now. So why would they stage one or two areas just for cameras when Western cameras aren't here in the first place? It's not logical. On the other hand, what is logical is by distributing this aid, then if any of the civilians perhaps didn't have any confidence before, they will definitely grow confidence in the forces that have liberated the area.
And to finish, a group of Western journalists is visiting now this situation, and they're saying that this is the first time Westerners are allowed to come over here. We have seen that for 8 years there was a big conflict going on here. And what do you think these people coming to cover this will say in the West?
Well, first of all, I'd like to correct that assumption that this is the first time Western journalists have been allowed here. Many Western journalists have been coming here since 2014. I myself came here, not this specific area, but to the Donetsk People's Republic, and traveled around extensively in 2019. And there are, of course, many journalists since. So that's number one. That's a complete lie. And even during these current events, the liberation of these areas from Ukrainian forces, there have been other Western journalists before this delegation. So that's one thing. What I think they will say is, well, for example, we saw it ourselves yesterday in the area that was liberated, and there's a hospital that was attacked, but what they will say is they will not give any context as to why the hospital has been destroyed. And that context is that it was militarized by the Ukrainian forces. Were it not militarized, it would not have been a target, But they almost certainly will just report that Russia destroyed a hospital. They will probably add for some spice that there were people inside the hospital, which is not true. If it's a militarized headquarters, there's not going to be civilians in there.
We have seen also some of them, not only here, all over the place, that the story is not what's happening, but that we are there. I'm here, and I had troubles coming here. Protagonizing the story. What do you think about that kind of journalism?
I think it's disgusting. We're here to report both on the liberation of these areas, but also on the suffering these people have endured in Donetsk and Lugansk, under 8 years of Ukrainian shelling with heavy artillery, day and night, you know, we have at least 14,000 people killed. It could be upwards of 20. I've heard some estimates. So that's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the fact that almost 2 weeks ago, in the hub of Donetsk, there was a Ukrainian Tochka-U missile, which had, I'm not a military expert, but it had cluster munitions essentially, and were the whole thing to have detonated in the middle of Donetsk, there would have been more than the 21 civilians that were killed and the 37 that were injured, including amputations of limbs, you know. These are the things journalists should be talking about, not how hard it is for them to get into the area.
Thank you, Eva. That's it for now. Back to you.